Man, if you know anything about Miami Music Week, you know that it is a absolutely crazy time here in Miami with Ultra going on and a bunch of different venues, doing their own thing. And so today I'm preparing to shoot for a up and coming DJ and then also for very large DJs that are actually going right after him. And I just wanted to guide you guys kind of through the process, like, I guess, my best practices that I implement every time I have to do these type of shoots. So I wanted to kind of show you, I guess, how I prepare and I guess what a shoot day kind of looks like. So let me show you, I guess, some of the setup and like some of the stuff that I brought with me and some of the things that I kind of plan ahead before I do this type of like really important big shoot. So let me show you guys. So another very important thing that I do is I show up at least an hour and a half before the concert or whatever starts. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to see what the venue looks like. I want to see what the lighting conditions are like. I want to see where I can position myself, and just overall I just want to test the equipment one more time and also, set up the equipment and just making sure everything works perfectly fine. So yeah, you definitely want to be there like at least an hour ahead of time. Just do yourself that favor. Show up an hour ahead of time, set up everything, no pressure, just get it done. And then you just start shooting, which brings me to the next point. So the night before, okay, I always talk to the artists and, whoever I'm working with, I always ask them like, what is your vision, right? What is like the main things that you want to capture? People hire me because I have a particular look that I've, kind of developed over the years. And it's like, I would say like a filmic type of look. I gotta say, I love like VHS looks, those type of things, like kind of like nostalgic type of looks. So people hire me to do that type of, shoots. And what I always ask clients is, do you want this? Is there something else that you want? What exactly do you want? So I make sure that I capture everything that they ask for, which is, my shot list. So on the shot list, I just have, like check boxes. Hey, I need to get this, and this, and this. And then once I get all the way to the end and I capture everything, then I start, kind of doing my creative looks. And a lot of times the client will choose those creative looks over kind of like what they actually wanted. And so, yeah, that is very important. You got to get yourself a shot list the night before, 2 days before, like really kind of plan ahead for this type of shoot. Because once you're there and it's like, action packed and, you're thinking, oh man, what am I going to capture next? Just whip out your shot list and just go down the checklist and get it done. Oh yeah, so another thing, I'm bringing an FX3 and I'm bringing an X-H2S. And the reason I'm doing that is because I feel like for video, just strictly video, the FX3 will perform a little bit better. And it's going to be a little bit, I would say, a little bit more reliable because it has that cooling fan inside of it, which the X-H2S does not. And I'm in South Florida and it's actually hot and humid today. So that's definitely one of my concerns, especially because I'm recording externally as well. Cameras are definitely going to heat up. So I kind of trust the FX3 a little bit more in that regard. Yeah, and also the X-H2S is going to be pretty much exclusively for taking pictures. Okay guys, so this is me in the future. So I have a little bit more to say about that just now. And yeah, you're gonna find out what I have to say about that later on in the video. So I'm gonna have the X-H2S kind of like, on my body basically, like on a strap. And I'm gonna be carrying my FX3 this whole entire time. And yeah, the FX3 is, it's just going to capture the main moments. And if I need to, get any stills from the footage, I can do that in DaVinci Resolve, just grab a still. And the still looks actually pretty good. It's only 8 megapixels, I know, but it can get upscaled. There's a lot that you can do with the image. But yeah, I wanted to also, and then on top of that, I also wanted for a form of like redundancy, right? Because I have the X-H2S, got the FX3. So if the FX3 just stops working for whatever reason, I can just, pick up with the X-H2S, which I can match up really well with the FX3. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the rundown of how I plan for these particular shoots. And, they're a big deal and there's no like retakes, and there are moments that you just absolutely have to capture. So yeah, this is what you kind of have to go through to make it all work and not have to worry during shoot day and whatnot. So yeah, and also make sure you don't forget your audio. Get your audio, get your microphone. So I don't have like a crazy, microphone setup right now with me. I do have a Rode mic, which I'm gonna have on the FX3 this whole entire time, but I'm really not gonna be using that audio from those videos. I'm gonna overlay some videos from the artist. So I do want to say that usually I have a photographer that's with me during this whole entire time, and I just focus on video because that's like my specialty. So, but in this particular instance, this was kind of short notice, and I just had to take the challenge. I just have to take the challenge and do it. And I think this is the best way to kind of go about it. There's definitely, planning, a lot of planning involved when you're a solo shooter. And especially when you're doing videos and photos. I could have just shot with the X-H2S and just switched from, video to photos. But you know what? I wanted to stick with more redundancy. I wanted to stick with the FX3 because of, the additional peace of mind, the reliability because of the heat. So that was really my thought process. It was a lot of planning involved on my end to make sure that this is really well thought out. Really, there's no issues. Nothing to think about when I get there. It's already been thought about. And the worst thing you could do to yourself during shoot day, you don't know what you're gonna do. You don't know if the equipment works. You don't have any extra batteries. You don't have any extra SD cards and all this other stuff, right? This is the worst thing you can do to yourself. Plan ahead. And you know what they say, being unprepared is preparing for failure. So this right here is my little setup. And the case I'm using is this Vault by Pelican. And to be honest with you, this is like a really amazing bang for buck. I mean, this is like much cheaper than the actual, I don't know, like the Pelican labeled ones. So I'm really, really happy with this. And, it's got little wheels on the bottom here. So it works really well. But anyway, let's get to the equipment that I got. So here is I got the FX3 with me. And this is going to be like a vertical. The whole thing is going to be a vertical setup because this is going to be for social media. And I do want to use the footage as, some stills as well. So I'm going to basically take some stills from the timeline from the FX3, and they're going to look really, really good when they're in vertical mode. And I'm exporting the image, vertically for Instagram. So that's the main setup. I also have a Ninja 5. So the reason I always, in these type of shoots, have my Ninja 5 with me is because I have a redundant source of recording. So when I click record on the FX3, the Ninja V will also start recording, and it's recording in 422 ProRes, which is great for my MacBook. And yeah, so if anything happens to my FX3, I know for sure that I will have all my footage on the Ninja 5, and I don't have to scramble and worry. And this is particularly important when you buy yourself a new memory card, right? Like I just bought a CF Express Type A card, and I don't know how well this thing is gonna function because I haven't really used it much. So instead of me kind of worrying and guessing during this entire shoot, I just have my Ninja V, recording as a backup. And yeah, it just works overall really, really well. So I highly, highly recommend, if you are able to do a backup sort of recording setup, I highly recommend that you get yourself like an external type of recorder as well. It has definitely saved my butt on few occasions. So highly recommend it. And so as you can see, I didn't bring any lights here, but the reason I didn't is because this, I'm shooting everything during the day, and so I didn't really need any lights. Okay, another important thing right here. This right here is the Expo disc. This thing is used for adjusting your white balance. So this thing is calibrated, or you get a little certificate saying that it's calibrated perfectly. I have my, of course, this is, I'm also, by the way, I'm bringing my X-H2S with me. So just for, having for pictures and whatnot. But I'm bringing the 75mm f1.2, just absolutely incredible lens for, tight shots. I have my, this right here, and of course the 16 to 55 f2.8, amazing lens in case I need it. But for the most part, the X-H2S is going to have the 13mm f1.4 because I just like how that looks. Of course, batteries, extra batteries right here in this little case. I don't want to take it out right now. I got my drone with me. I have a little flash just in case. I always bring this with me, so I have that with me just in case. And my little Action 2. This thing is just going to be for like behind the scenes type of stuff. Guys, you really need to know what you're shooting before you go out there and spend a whole lot of money on a camera that might not fully suit your needs. Now let me explain what I mean by that. So last week I was doing a shoot for a very large DJ, and the work entailed doing kind of like a recap video for social media and, some photography as well. So of course, the first thought that went through my mind was that, the videography portion is going to be the most important. So let me take my FX3 with me because it's a, super incredible, very reliable camera that just has never failed me. But then I also thought, let me bring my X-H2S with me just in case, because to be honest with you, in this particular shoot, the X-H2S would have probably been a better setup because it is, a hybrid, true hybrid camera that has incredible stills capabilities along with incredible video capabilities. So then I brought the X-H2S, like I said, and the FX3 with me. I intended for the FX3 to be my main camera throughout the whole shoot. And then if I needed to grab, stills, I would just kind of grab them from the DaVinci Resolve, grab stills function. Now, mind you, before I did all of this, I actually went and did kind of like a test run the day before to see how good these screen grabs would look. And to be honest with you, they looked, pretty good. They weren't like extraordinary, not like, what the X-H2S can do once you, switch it into photography mode. Yeah, that's very, very true. But, the stills are very good still. So I had this like vertical rig that I built with the FX3, and then I had my Atomos recorder right next to it, and this whole thing was just very compact, portable, and it was a vertical setup. And then I also had my X-H2S kind of like on my side just in case I needed to just get a particular moment. But here's the thing, right? When you are shooting a live event like that, like a DJ event, you really cannot switch between two cameras. Trust me, maybe you think you can, and who knows, maybe you can, but for me personally, grabbing, another camera to, get the moment, dude, you're gonna totally miss the moment. What I started to realize was happening when I was using my FX3 just, shooting videos. Towards the middle of the set and the overall just day, I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna use the X-H2S. I'm just gonna use the X-H2S and I'm gonna shoot in 6.2K, open gate, 30 frames per second, and I'm gonna shoot, an F-Log 2. So as I'm shooting the event, I'm shooting with a f1.2, 75mm lens to get, really close-up shots, get the DJ in a very particular angle, and just overall, just like the ambiance of the place. So as I'm, using the X-H2S and I'm just going around and, I'm shooting, I'm just thinking like, oh my God, this is so much better than having the FX3 and worrying about, hey, am I going to be able to even get this, still grab from the timeline? Is it going to look good? Is the motion blur going to affect the image at all? I just kind of did not even think about it because obviously once you flip the X-H2S into photography mode, you have just a beast of a photography camera. And because the X-H2S is so fast, you can switch from video to photos extremely quickly, and all the settings obviously are, intact. I continue to shoot with the X-H2S, and man, I'm getting all the moments. And as I'm seeing something that is, kind of about to happen, as far as like, during the DJ set, you kind of, when you do so many of them, you kind of know what's coming next. So I thought, yeah, I switch over to photography mode. I had my little flash, the EFX8 on the X-H2S, and that little flash is amazing. It's very compact, it's tiny, it is TTL compatible, so it works really well on the X-H2S. Even though I have the EFX 500, which is like the big one, I really didn't want the setup of the X-H2S to be bulky and big. So the other concern that I had, the reason I had two bodies with me was because obviously the FX3, has the dual native ISO, just crazy 12,800, and I thought, you know what, once it gets a little bit darker in the venue, I'm not going to be able to get the footage that I want, and it's not going to look how I want it to look. But man, I tell you what, even towards like the end of the day, I was able to, crank up the ISO to, 3200, 4000, no issues. As you guys know, the X-H2S is very, very clean consistently from, 1250 ISO all the way to 12,800 ISO. And the grain is just, you can just so easily remove it in DaVinci Resolve. The FX3 is an extremely, extremely good camera. But if you're inside that range of the 800 ISO and the 12,800 ISO, if you're like in the middle, man, that image is so noisy and it is extremely difficult to remove the noise. And that goes the same for, going past 12,800. There's a certain point, I would say past 25,600, 40,000, you're kind of like getting into the danger zone. 40,000 ISO the image is going to be, pretty noisy, and it's going to be very difficult to remove the noise. When I got back into my office, I was looking at the footage, side by side. Obviously, I had, the FX3 and the X-H2S footage, and I'm looking at it side by side. And man, I gotta tell you what, the image on the X-H2S in this particular scenario, as long as you have, decent amount of light, it doesn't have to be like, professional lighting everywhere by any means. It could be just regular, daylight. The X-H2S is just going to perform so beautifully good, just amazing. And looking at the footage back and forth, I gotta tell you what, I preferred the X-H2S footage over the FX3 footage, just because when you take that 6.2K open gate footage and you drop it on a 4K timeline, the image just looks insane. It looks insane. I had my F-Log 2. Once I converted that with my LUT, I have a LUT specifically designed for the FX3 and one for the X-H2S, and they're both very similar looks. They match. When I dropped the FX3 LUT on the FX3 clips, I noticed that the skin was a little pinkish. And especially like if there's a light that's like reddish or whatever and it's reflecting off the person, that red is so bright and it's so like it loses detail and it loses like just overall like dynamic range. It really hurts like how the subject looks. When I did that same LUT to the X-H2S footage, the red first of all, the red looked way more like realistic to what I saw it with my own eyes. The LUT kind of absorbed into the image just better. It just looked cleaner, just better. It looked like I had more dynamic range. This was a very contrasty scene, so the background blown out, the person has to be obviously exposed properly. So I looked at the footage side by side. Now this kind of brings me to the end, at the conclusion of this whole thing. You really have to look at what type of videos you shoot, what type of clients you work with, and then you pick your camera based on that. That is going to be the absolutely most important thing that you can do for yourself as a professional, as a videographer, as somebody that's just getting started, or maybe somebody that's, seasoned. You should already know this, but obviously you have to get the camera based on the type of work that you do. I would have been completely fine just walking around with my X-H2S for that particular scenario with I have a grip that has like a little Ethernet port and it connects to Wi-Fi and all that. It's the file transfer grip. If I had just brought that, man, I could have done, vertical shoots. I could have done horizontal, regular 16:9, and I could have done it very easily with 3 batteries in the body, and I wouldn't have to worry about switching batteries ever. So yeah, that's it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I know it's been a minute since the last time you saw me, so I hope you haven't forgotten about me. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing because it helps my little channel and it motivates me to make more videos like this. So yeah, that is it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.